everyone, and welcome wherever you are, and thank you for landing on this page on your very special Sunday. I'm sure you have a fully booked schedule tomorrow because tomorrow is Africa Day, the 25th of May. But I am here to explain to you why you shouldn't be anywhere else but here. Because tomorrow we're going to host our first ever digital, virtual, innovative Africa Solidarity concert. And the concert will have a call to action to fundraise for Africa COVID-19 Response Fund. So stay with me on this pre-event to explain you all about it and why you should be here tomorrow. As you know, we have all been through very tough times, and we've been really challenged to amend the broken places and spaces and systems of our world because of the pandemic that hits the world, COVID-19. And also in Africa, it's been tough too, even though Africa has the lowest rates of infections and deaths, but we've been struggling. Our health systems and infrastructures are weak. Our facilities are overwhelmed, and of course, besides COVID-19, we have other diseases that we're handling. The Ebola outbreak, malaria, HIV/AIDS, and other hardships that our people are going through. Coronavirus didn't stop the fight against hunger and inequality and gender-based violence. Our young people who are in the informal sector are unemployed, besides the millions who have already been unemployed before the pandemic. Lockdowns impacted the lives of our people and the most vulnerable, IDPs, refugees, those trapped in conflicts, and a lot of other people. But Africa has shown extraordinary leadership. We have been leading the response to the pandemic as early as February, when our health ministers came here to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and had an emergency meeting where they came up with a joint continental strategy and set up an Africa task force on novel coronavirus. So let's see first what the chair of the African Union has to say on this African leadership and solidarity and quick, immediate, effective response.
Economies are driven by people-to-people contact, by business-to-business contact, and with coronavirus that is going to have a negative impact on that. We all know the majority of the citizens of our continent are young. And they are techno-savvy. They've taken to the digital revolution like a fish takes to water. They know technology, they love technology, they work with technology, they create technological innovations. And this is what stands us in our good stead. Already, they are creating wondrous innovations. And the greatest gift we've got as a continent are our young people.
And few days after that ministerial meeting, the African Union Commission started to speed up some of the measures that have been put in place and act immediately. And the chairperson of the Commission has taken the Wash Hands Challenge and had a solidarity message.
L'heure est donc à la mobilisation, la vigilance, la solidarité et surtout la responsabilité. Je voudrais réitérer notre totale disponibilité à déployer tous les moyens en notre possession pour assister les pays qui en exprimeraient le besoin. J'invite chaque citoyen et citoyenne du continent au respect des gestes qui prémunissent et qui sauve. Et je dis à tous, protégez-vous et protégez les autres.
So yes, our member states started to take immediate action, especially with immediate travel restrictions. And in 2 or 3 weeks, we found ourselves in half or full lockdowns, door to door, raising awareness, distribution of protective gear, masks, and hygiene from the communities, crowdfunding, and from the national authorities putting national funds to respond to the pandemic. So both governments and citizens acted and adopted thanks to the resilience of our people. And of course, young people started to serve their communities immediately through volunteering, turning their organization into productive labs, and also innovating and using the technology available in their hands. But at that point, they were not yet part of the policy conversation. So we started a series of virtual AU youth consultation on COVID-19 and started to bring decision makers and African leaders to engage directly with young people and listen to their concerns. And really using these consultations to empower young people with the information they need and brief them and share experiences and best practices among ourselves as Africans and rally for a collective youth response. And now we've actually reached 15,000 participants through these consultations, both small focus groups and public webinars. So I hosted first the Africa CDC director, the chief of Africa CDC that is leading the continental response to the pandemic, Dr. John Nengason, and he had a powerful, inspiring call to action for young people. Let's hear what he said.
My request from you is that let's create a movement. We call it Youth Against COVID-19 in Africa. And that is the movement that I want you to drive for, so that we can save our continent. We can do it. I'm very convinced we can with your support. So Youth Against COVID-19 in Africa should be a tagline and the driving force that I urge you to create that movement and both use that movement to sensitize the public, use that movement to dispel false information and fake news, use that movement to raise just $1 or $2 a youth, and we target 200 million youths on the continent within 6 months.
Yes, he called for a youth-led movement. And following his call to action, we established the African Youth Front on coronavirus, which really makes the African Union the first intergovernmental institution to create the highest level space for young people to co-lead the response to the pandemic at the policy and advocacy level. And Commissioner of HRC, Her Excellency Sarah Akbar, supported the initiative, and this was her message.
Today we are launching the African Youth Front on coronavirus. We all know how this pandemic has turned the world, and it is very important that the largest population of Africa join in the fight against COVID-19. And it is also very important that the African Union member states engage youth in the fight against corona. When those policies are being made, please bring in youth. When the health sector are meeting, please bring the young professionals in the health sector into the conversation so that together we will beat COVID-19 hands down. The future is ours only if we can harness the demographic dividend through investment in the youth of Africa.
Right after Africa CDC director finished his engagement with young people, he went straight to talk with heads of states. And following that, he announced PACT, Partnership to Accelerate COVID-19 Testing, which is really about strengthening the capacity of testing across the continent, but with emphasis on the countries who have minimal capacity. And the aim is really to have 10 million Africans tested in the next 6 months. Our human rights system also moved to action through releasing of different statements, but also monitoring the situation on the ground. And when I hosted the chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, Dr. Solomon Derso, this is what he said.
These acts of violations are themselves violations of law, violations of human rights standards by which states are bound. So we urge and call on national human rights institutions, civil society, members of the media, the judiciary, to ensure that they actually elevate their monitoring capacity. their response capacity. It is a time that challenges all of us, and the challenge for you is, how do you not only comply with the science-based advice and measures, but also help others to comply with these measures, mobilize and organize in order to ensure that you are protected, others are protected, in compliance with the human rights standards.
February, March, we get into April. And on the 7th of April, the African Union announced the Africa COVID-19 Response Fund, a public-private partnership to raise an initial of 150 million US dollars for immediate needs to prevent transmission, and then up to 400 million US dollars to support sustainable medical response to the pandemic. And this is what Commissioner of Social Affairs, Her Excellency Amir Al-Fadel said about the COVID-19 Response Fund.
يعني أفريقيا تعلم ماذا تريد أن تفعل، وتعلم كيف سوف تفعل هذا الأمر، ما هي الآليات التنفيذية. التحدي الذي بارز هو المال، يعني كيف سوف يتم توفير موارد مالية لتنفيذ الخطة، لأن الخطة معنية بأهداف رئيسية، منها هنا إنه تدعم الدول الإفريقية على مستوى وزارات الصحة، دعم بتمليك القدرات الفنية في مجالات الفحص، أيضا المعينات، الأجهزة الطبية المطلوبة لإجراء الفحوصات، إرسال كوادر بشرية مساعدة لأن هنالك نقص كبير في عدد من الدول. الرؤساء في اجتماعهم الأول على مستوى المكتب التنفيذي ناقشوا أمر، بعد أن اعتمدوا الخطة ناقشوا أمر توفير موارد مالية، وحقيقة خرجوا بقرار أنه لا بد من يكونوا صندوق لمكافحة الكورونا في أفريقيا.
So as Commissioner said, the fund will have 3 clear objectives to achieve. The first one is the procurement of medical supplies and commodities. Second, supporting the deployment of rapid responders across the continent. And third, socio-economic support for the most vulnerable population in Africa, including our most youthful population. The fund has Africa CDC as its secretariat, and it has also a board that comprises of member states from all the 5 regions of Africa and private sector representatives. All is set for this fund. All we need now is your support. And in order to start mobilization for this fund, just few days after the launch on the 12th of April, the chairperson of the African Union appointed 4 special envoys on COVID-19. And their task is to solicit financial support for the continent's efforts. The 4 special envoys are Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala of Nigeria, Dr. Donald Kaberuka of Rwanda, Monsieur Tidjane Thiam of Senegal, and Dr. Manuel of South Africa. Following her appointment, I hosted Dr. Ngozi and I asked her, what does that really mean, mobilizing funds for Africa, but also what's her call to action for young people? Listen to what she said.
One call to action for all of you. Want to be active in policy making and government? Vote. Use your voices. Be active. Become an activist to change things in your country. Don't just wait and look for government. You act. Another call to action for you is create a job for yourself and create a job for 6 others. I'm not asking for 10. 1 job for yourself and 1 for 6, so 7 jobs per youth. My commitment is to continue pushing inside the continent and outside for additional resources to get us out, and to push for accountability and transparency in the use of those resources.
Powerful messages from our leadership and dedicated commitment. Now we have arrived to week 14 since this pandemic hits the continent, with the first reported case in Egypt on 14 of February. Today, it's exactly 100 days since the outbreak of the pandemic in Africa. What I've just shared with you is a small example of what the African Union have been up to. It's really a snippet of the daily work of communication, webinars, training, building capacity of member states, and distributing millions and millions of test kits. But we are now over 100,000 reported cases, and we are going to reach our peak. And we need you. That's why tomorrow is the big day. It's Freedom Day, it's Liberation Day, it's Africa Day. But it's also the fundraising day for Africa COVID-19 Response Fund. So we teamed up with AFRIMA to bring musicians from across the continent for this cause. This is an opportunity for all of us to come together and rally behind a continental effort and one goal: to fundraise for COVID-19 Response Fund to fulfill its objectives. And what a better way to do it than Africa Liberation Day. N'est-ce pas, Pape Diouf?
Salut Madame la Voix de l'Union africaine pour la jeunesse. Je me joins à vous, Aya, pour rappeler les jeunes africains à nous joindre le 25 mai, la journée mondiale de l'Afrique, pour célébrer avec d'autres musiciens et artistes la solidarité africaine pour lutter contre le Covid-19.
Il a fallu en arriver là pour nous rassembler, prendre conscience de l'importance de l'humanité. Ce combat, c'est le monde entier qui doit le mener, car y a pas de couleur ni de religion pour être confiné. Il a fallu en arriver là pour les remercier, ces héros du quotidien qui sans compter sacrifie le vie au nom de notre santé. C'est même qui criaient dans la rue, venez nous aider. Et demain, on fera quoi? On commencera l'homme comme ça. Et demain, ce sera nous, les maîtres du jeu. Un point, c'est tout. S'aimer encore, danser encore, sourire encore, s'embrasser plus fort, pleurer encore, souffrir encore et tenir encore, mais chanter plus fort. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, ça fait du bien. La 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 la.
Merci beaucoup, Pape Diouf. This is just a taste of what tomorrow looks like. The amazing musicians and talented musicians of our continent are coming together to perform an amazing show for you. And what we really want to achieve tomorrow is 5 main things. First, to inspire action. And you will hear inspiring key messages from the chairperson of the African Union, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, and the Commissioner of Social Affairs. Second, to use the power of music and the crucial role of African artists in the fight against the pandemic. Third, to engage our young people, and especially young musicians, to join hands together with the African Union. Fourth, to galvanize solidarity across the continent and beyond to fundraise for Africa COVID-19 Response Fund. Fifth, and finally, to forge partnerships and greater synergies for this cause. Our host will be the one and only Eddie Caddy. The virtual concert will be broadcasted on Trace TV, Facebook, and YouTube. The hashtags that we will be using are Stronger Together and Together for Stronger Africa. The language of the performances will be both in English and in French. Now, I hope after this you have realized that there is no better place than to be here tomorrow. Same platform, same time, same link. Together for Stronger Africa, and see you tomorrow.